Are you looking for an epic outdoor adventure?
In this video, we're going to review a little bit of and share a little bit of our experience about the Alleghany Passage. Hello, we are
Roosevelt's Ride! And we are super excited to take you on this review of our journey through the Alleghany Passage, talking about what you shouldn't miss, where you should go, and just this trail in general. It is a rail trail that starts in Pittsburgh and goes to
Cumberland, Maryland.
And it is, I should remember how long it is, but I don't.
It's 150 miles.
Is it?
It is a great trail that everyone should experience, especially if you love the outdoors and are keen on an adventure. Yes,
there's tons of wildlife. We saw a few times. We saw some deer. We saw lots of different rabbits and those little tiny things. The one thing that we would suggest is watch when you go, because when we went, we were rained on for 75% of the trail, and we might have missed or not stayed at some places long enough because we were cold and wet.
Yeah, the reason being our timing, we went in early May, so keep that in mind. We kind of missed, I don't know, mud season or whatever, but...
it was the tail end of mud season. Yeah. We did hit some mud.
But we would suggest to go probably in late May, because when we rode the C&O, it was a little bit the next week after, and it was a little bit warmer, more consistently sunny. But probably go between early May and then, or excuse me, late May, and then into early July would probably be a great time, and then into late August into September.
Yes.
Maybe even October.
But missing that high heat of the summer might be a good idea.
We hear it.
But up actually in the mountains of the Allegheny, between Pittsburgh and Cumberland, is actually a cooler area. So it wouldn't be terrible. So let's talk about some of our favorite spots on the Allegheny.
Well, I really enjoyed the fountain, especially how we started it with the dance pose on at that Point State Park, that big fountain.
Yes, it is one of those ones that you see in pictures everywhere, and it is a beautiful fountain.
And then all the sites that we saw along the first day of the ride.
We went down to the Steel Valley and the pump house.
Oh, that was great.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah. There was so much history. And so much, there was little blurbs that you could read about and just learn about the people in that area.
And parts of that, and I even say it in our video about the Allegheny, that it really did feel like just history and the modern world collided and made this beautiful section of the trail. But that first night, we stayed in West Newton, which was really nice.
Just outside of West Newton.
We did, and especially riding through the little town there was gorgeous, and then Bloom Brew Works.
Yes, definitely. If you're on the trail, go to Bloom Brew Works. It's behind the firehouse, like literally, that shares the building. It's kind of hidden, so you kind of have to go around it and
downstairs.
Down.
Yeah.
But they had such good beer. Highly recommend.
Another place I really liked was Confluence, especially the bike shop that helped adjust my brakes while we were there. Very cute little town. It's right off the trail, so you'll have to cross the river to get to it, but it's definitely worth a stop. George Washington apparently camped there. Lots of history.
Yeah, I'm going to back up a little bit and talk about the really cute houses that we stayed in at right side of West Newton. They were these cute little, shelters that... had a wall missing, but had a nice roof, so that when it was pouring rain... You
mean the Adirondack shelters?
Yeah, those ones. They were really cute. But when it was pouring rain, you didn't get wet. Although that was the one night it didn't rain.
Right.
So it didn't really matter. But they were really fun.
It was beautiful. Also, on the next day, between West Newton and then, that's when the rain started. We stopped at this little, the Depot Inn, I think, or the Depot... Anyway, we were riding by and we saw this little sign that just said, "Hey, you guys want some breakfast and coffee?" Yeah. Yes. So we stopped there. It was right off the trail, probably 4 miles outside of West Newton. It's kind of easy to miss if you don't see the sign. But anyway.
It's somebody's house.
Right.
They also have an Airbnb.
Right above.
We didn't get to see it at all. But
we had a lovely conversation with the owner and his son, who also is a cyclist. Another place I really enjoyed was Ohiopyle itself, just not the night before we got to Ohiopyle. In the campsite where you have to go up a 38% grade hill with 100-pound bikes. So
just be aware that if you are wanting to camp in Ohiopyle, if you have all of your gear with you and your bikes weigh 100 pounds, like ours basically did.
We overpack.
Well, and our bikes are also heavier bikes.
They are. That's fair.
So it's not, we're only carrying about 50 pounds. It's just that our bikes weigh basically 50 pounds as well.
Right.
Just be aware that that is a third of a mile that you have to get up. And there's raccoons there. We know because we were raided twice.
That night.
But the water is warm, and
I would suggest, well, yeah, they do have nice hot showers. We did stay, our campsite we got was right by the hot shower, so we enjoyed that a lot. The other thing I would say when you come down that hill is just kind of not ride your bike down. The easiest way, just kind of feather your brakes. As you go back down, it was soggy, so it might be a little bit slippery too. So just keep that in mind. The only real camping options you have on the other side of Ohiopyle is, what, 10 miles past?
Something like that.
Yeah.
So it just depends on how you want to phase your days. We really wanted to make sure that we had a beautiful morning in Ohiopyle, which we got our 2 hours or hour and a half of sun.
Right.
While we were looking at the beautiful falls in Ohiopyle. And there's a great little museum there, would highly recommend. It's really quick walk through, but it's a lot of fun. The
Flank Lloyd Wright House, which was closed when we were there, so as some of the sites were along the trail.
I think that was open, but that one's a little bit far off the trail.
Right, that's why we didn't go.
That's a 2-mile road ride or something like that.
And we had to kind of get along because we had to make it all the way to Myersdale.
Well, we were really hoping we could miss some of the rain. We did not. But before we get to Myersdale, there's some beautiful viaducts. So the one right before Salisbury, right before Myersdale is the Salisbury Viaduct. And it is the longest one on the trail. It is
just a view
gorgeous.
of the valley from there. And then the Keystone Viaduct I found was really fantastic.
Just after Myersdale.
Right after Myersdale. And then the ride, you go through a little tunnel, but right before you get to the little tunnel, right into Myersdale and that little caboose that was at their station on the Allegheny. The view down and overlooking Myersdale, simply gorgeous.
And it's fun to go in the caboose. It has shorter hours. Yeah. When we went, it had a little bit shorter hours. But it's fun to go see the caboose. I don't know. Trains are fun.
Yeah. And then down into Myersdale, it actually was really great. We decided to stay down in town to finally, we had our crap laying all over the hotel or motel room, actually, at Doge's, which is also a diner. It's very 1974 in there, but totally worth it. Nice cruise right down into it, and then it was fun.
It was fun. And then as we continue on, we go up to the Eastern Continental Divide.
Which is the highest point in the trail.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a cute little tunnel. It helped block the wind and the rain because it was freezing.
For about 20 minutes.
But we met a really nice man who was actually about to bike the country. And that inspired us. He was biking to DC to then bike back to Seattle to meet up with his group.
Like you do when you're 75.
And you get to meet some really great people like that. You do. So then we started downhill.
Oh, from the Eastern Continental Divide straight on down into Cumberland. But there was a few things we saw along the way, like
the Mason-Dixon line. We start there. My husband gets a little crazy with lines and doing fun things.
Well, like we did at the Prime Meridian, I had to go East Bank, West Bank, East Bank, West Bank.
I wonder how many people do that. Let us know in the comments if you do something like that too. I would love to know how many people do something like that.
Who else doesn't stand over borders like this and give their spouse a kiss when we're...
I'll give him a turn right now.
And give their spouse a kiss over the border like, oh, I'm in the Western Hemisphere. I'm in the Eastern.
It's true. And we have some great pictures and some great memories from the Mason-Dixon line.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Another place was, the Big Savage Tunnel.
Oh, that is a fun tunnel.
It's a fun tunnel. It's really long, and it's also a downgrade. And remember, at this point in the trail, we've been climbing up into the Eastern Continental Divide about 1.5 to less than 2% grade. It's usually about 1.75 average for the whole 150-mile trail. But from the Eastern Continental Divide, you're going about 2%, 1.75 to 2% down for 16 miles. And then you get through Big Savage Tunnel, and then the view right out east of Big Savage
is supposed to be epic. We can't tell you.
It was foggy.
It was completely fogged over and raining.
Right. And about 39 degrees.
Yeah, that was the cold day. And we were ready to get down into Cumberland and get warm.
Yeah, well...
It was cold.
But that was one of our longest mileage days when we did the trail, but it was actually one of our quickest riding days because that last 16 miles went by through in a breeze. And then we stopped at the Eastern Continental Divide, like she said. We also stopped at Frostburg very briefly, but we didn't go up into town, so we can't really tell you about that. But to get up into town from the trail, it's a little windy bike path to get up one hillside. So
we had planned to, but when we got there, we wanted to get warm.
Right.
But there's actually a really fun. Well, I have no idea if it's fun because I've never done it, but it sounds really interesting. And it's Beat the Train, Cumberland to Frostburg.
Oh yeah.
And they have a race that you have to race from Cumberland up into Frostburg and see if you could beat the train's time, which it is a steeper grade, and that entire path is actually directly next to the train line. So I hope you're not racing at the same time because you do cross the tracks
once or twice,
multiple times. But it's really fun because there's also like tunnels that the train and you could be going through at the same time, which would be very loud if that actually happened.
Bring earplugs if you do that.
But it sounds like a lot of fun, and I'd love to go back there at some point and see that. I would never race it, but I would like to know.
But honestly, I would definitely ride this trail again because the trail surface was very similar to the Katy Trail. Obviously, with the rain, it added a little bit more rolling resistance and all that stuff. But the grades were manageable. You're basically climbing up a 1.75% grade for 3 days because we did it in 4 days.
But it's also very well maintained. There were a few trees that were down, but you also saw trees that were down fairly recently that had already been moved off of the trail.
They do a fantastic job clearing those out really quickly.
Yes.
And so hats off to who volunteers the Pennsylvania, Maryland Department of Interior that really spot on with that.
Keep those trails up and going.
It is definitely a doable trail. So if you want to bike tour with kids or do it over a shorter amount of time, there is a 15 mile per hour speed limit on the trail. So keep that in mind, especially on that that cruise down into Cumberland from the Eastern Continental Divide.
There's quite a few people that break that, but
yeah, we saw a few, but most people were sticking to it. E-bikes were really great on the trail. They were sticking to that speed limit for the most part. So it's a very safe trail. We did see wildlife, but we didn't see a whole lot of bears or anything crazy like that. But another thing I'd like to mention is accommodations inside of Cumberland. It was raining the day we got to Cumberland, of course. But finding the mile marker at the end of the trail is very easy because it goes straight right into the C&O. There's a plate and even a sign that says C&O, Chesapeake and Ohio Canal Towpath. So you can't miss it. You can definitely get some great pictures and celebrate your victory of finally completing one of those bucket list type trails because that's exactly what this trail is.
This is 100% a bucket list trail. We would 100% recommend to do it, even in the freezing rain.
It was worth it.
Just maybe have a little bit warmer gear than we did. And
find a better way to stow your snacks in Ohiopyle. I would, so you don't get raided by raccoons.
Yeah.
But at the end, we did stay in the Fairfield Inn. It was right past the sign for the C&O Canal Towpath, and they have a bike washing station.
They do.
Right outside the hotel, and it's right off the trails. Trail. Hotel trail. It's fantastic.
Super handy because then we were able to get a lot of that mud and grime off of our bikes before we added more mud and grime on the C&O, which we will review in a later date.
Right. But out of I'd say like a 9 out of a 1 to 10, how would you rate?
Oh, 10 out of 10.
100%.
Ride the trail. It's amazing.
Yeah. And if you can couple it with the C&O, you'll hear more about that later, but you have to do this trail. So that really sums up our review. I mean, and I think most of our problems at all were really weather, and then we didn't train as much as we should have before riding it. That was another limitation.
We should have been a little bit more trained.
Yeah, but
we made it through. We had fun, and we knocked another epic adventure off of our bucket list.
Right. And
added it right back on because, in all honesty, we want to be able to enjoy it and see some of the sights that. We're like, it's pouring rain. This is so beautiful. Can we go?
You're constantly under those circumstances, you're constantly taking mental notes of like, okay, next time I'm stopping here. Like, holy crap, I am going to do this trail next time. Because there hopefully and will be a next time.
Yes, for sure.
So, definitely going to write it again. And that's really it. So, if you like this video, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to Roosevelt's Ride, where we can offer you a few tips, tricks, and snack ideas.
And definitely check out our Allegany Passage series. We have a 4-day series of this Allegany Passage where you can see us cold and wet, but seeing some of this, how amazing this trail actually is. And the few times that the sun peeked out for half an hour, we got some beautiful shots.
And most of the trail is right by the river. You're following the river most of the time. Oh, it's so gorgeous.
So yeah, definitely check those videos out, and we will see you on the trail.
Take care.